Okay, so the panel today is on starting young. Are you nuts? And to be honest, I think a lot of you guys over here are people who want to be entrepreneurs or thinking of starting something new or already have multi-million-dollar businesses. Now, one of the biggest topics that has been going around is, are some people too young to start? Are you ever too old to start? So that was how this panel came about. So my name is Yvonne, a little bit introduction about myself. I started an inter-tertiary peer mentoring entrepreneurship club, helping aspiring entrepreneurs to help one another. Because we believe that sometimes at ground zero, level zero, the most valuable help that you can get is from somebody who was just a few years ahead of you. And then after getting some help from the people that helped me, this club was started, and now I run a pretty successful e-commerce site selling things that females like to buy online. So that's my introduction, and Justin?
Hey, good afternoon. So my name is Justin Fulcher. I'm a serial entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, and I have a passion for utilizing technology to solve people's problems. So at the age of 7, I got an early start into programming, and I learned Python. And by the age of 13, I started my first software company, focusing on website development and application development for small and medium-sized businesses. And from there, at the request of my parents, I headed east, and where I studied at university. And after about a year, I realized this wasn't for me, so I dropped out and actually headed to Southeast Asia, where I end up here now. And so after working on a variety of different ventures and quite a few different entrepreneurial endeavors, that brings me here, where I'm looking to help people just like you to follow their passions and just live the lifestyle of your dreams.
Well, thank you. Hi, Kenny.
Hi, hello everyone. I didn't start at the age of 13. I'm still figuring out secondary school.
Oh, what? You're 20 years old now only, right?
Yeah. Okay, I think I grew up with the Singapore system. So through school, I didn't really think about starting businesses. You just think about trying to get into your school of choice, your course of choice, and hopefully you get a degree, and then after that, go through AME and you figure things out. I'm a social entrepreneur, so the first setup that I started, not at 13, but at 27, is actually an alternative school to help young people that drop out from mainstream schools to finish their O-levels education. Then at the age of 31, I started a dance school that help hip-hop dancers in Singapore to be able to get stable employment and to use dance as a form of youth engagement to get them to move towards positive living and living out their dreams. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Keith.
Hey, hi, I'm Keith. Sorry, I'm overdosed with flu medication, so do pardon me if I'm going too fast. Anyway, I started, may not be a very good role model for you, but I started my own business when I was in university. So there was this one particular module where engineering students were asked to create their own website to post their results. And as engineering students, we're all very busy and very lazy. And so a lot of people approached me and said, hey, I know that you create website, can you help us to create those websites? And I charge people $50 for a website. And I put in a randomizer in the code so that no one can see that I was actually the one who created the website. But unfortunately, the dean found out after that. I won't tell you what university that is, I won't tell you the date as well. But the dean found out and asked me to see him. And he said, look, I think that's very entrepreneurial of you, but that's not right. And we have to ask you to repeat the module again. So the second time around, when I'm repeating the module, I make sure that the randomizer this time is absolutely randomized. And I charge people $80 this time instead of $50. And I earn more money this time around, so I managed to pay my tuition fee, buy a good laptop and stuff like that. And I realized, hey, there's money to be earned in this, so that's how I started.
Awesome. Wow, thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. Honestly, I can't say any of you because the lights are so bright.
Yeah.
So I really don't have such an exciting past as the other three gentlemen here. I had a very traditional life. I did my bachelor's, I did my master's. I started work at A-Star. I worked at A-Star for 13 years, so I was a very regular engineer. I ended up doing research in security, and a few years back actually 2007. I lost my USB flash drive. My expertise was security, and I asked myself, like, look, I'm doing a lot of research in security, but I lost my own flash drive and I can't do anything about it. And that's how I and my co-founder, we invented this device called the iTwin. And we were very fortunate to raise 2 rounds of funding, and here we are 2 years into the company. And it's a very exciting time, but you know, I started this company because I wanted this device. I wanted to solve my own problem, and the journey has been very exciting. At the same time, I'm learning every day. So I would like to share my experience here, and I'm very thankful to Ideas.inc and Christabel and Yon for inviting me here. Thank you.
Thanks, Lars. So, on the note of you starting when you wanted to solve a problem for yourself, it was a big step for you to take from being a salary, you getting a good salary in a cushy job, very nice. I'm sure a lot of things were going through your head when you decided that you want to step out of your comfort zone to start something new. Can you share with us what was going through your head during that period of time?
The point is, at A-Star, my life was very comfortable. I was a pretty good
He's very good.
employer,
He's not pretty good. He's very
employee.
good.
But what I felt was that I was doing a lot of research work that was not it was not getting out of A-Star's doors. It was interesting research, but it was not very satisfying for me. I mean, as an engineer at heart, I wanted people to use what I'm doing, and one thing led to another, and we were very fortunate to raise our first round of funding, and I truly believe in what I'm doing, and I'm happy doing it. So that's why I'm doing it. So I was very happy at A-Star, but I'm still happy doing what I'm doing right now.
And thanks to you now we have iTwin, so thank you.
Thank you.
And Keith, you started when you were in university, and that's about maybe half of the people here also. Many of you guys are still studying, and many of our finalists are still in school. So Keith, when you first started this, I'm sure there are some peers, even the dean tells you that, hey, what you're doing may be wrong. Wait, he told you it was wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he told you it was wrong. And was it really wrong? Because now you made money out of it, you did not depend on your parents to pay your tuition fees. How did you overcome that kind of viewpoint from the people around you, superiors and peers?
Well, I really never considered that, because personally I really do not think that this is anything that is different. From young, I've always been taught that everything is possible, nothing is impossible. So that's the motto I've been living by, and I've been trying new stuff. So I never see that is anything that is out of the ordinary for myself.
So do you have any advice for people here? Because I'm sure this may not have happened to you before, but in our society now, there's a reason why this panel started. The assumption of this panel is starting young. Are you nuts? So the assumption is we are nuts for people who are starting so young. So what advice do you have to give for these people, like not to be bothered by it, or how can we move on, motivate ourselves better?
I think it's great if you start young. You don't have all those baggages. I have friends who are, by the way, after a short period of starting my own company, I joined Microsoft, and then now I'm back in doing my own business. So I've seen life in a big MNCs, and if you have that kind of working experience in a big company, you will know that there's a lot of baggage, there's a lot of inertia to not move. So when you're young, you do not have those baggages, you do not have those inertia. It's the best time to start. Go try something, and that's always another chance for you to go back to work for a business, right? If that's not your cup of tea.
So Justin started really young, and Kenny, you worked for a while before you started your own company, right? I'm sure some of the things that you learned from where you worked for did contribute to how you built your company in the past, when you were 27. So can you share, and also can Justin share your viewpoints about what were some of the good things that helped you get started while you were working, and even you when you didn't have really professional working experience, but started everything bootstrapping from scratch?
Then my first job, I was actually serving in in an NGO, a VWO. And what prompted me to start the organization is I realized that the services that the VWO is offering will not be able to solve the social issue that we have. So the issue is that in Singapore, public education is rather strong, but once you fall out or for some sort of reason, if you leave the system, it's pretty hard for you to go back on track. And 10 years back, you don't have really rules that regulate the whole market. So there are a lot of young people that are kind of like being abused by the private market. So my question is always, I mean, if gangs or secret societies is able to attract young people and with leadership capability to go around and brave their souls and flesh, you know, to get into microfinancing and all that, then there has to be some potential in them that we have not tapped. And if we don't tap, then somebody else is going to tap that. So the way I feel that it's imperative for us to start something to allow these young people, you know, to get back into education, to finish their middle school, their O levels, and to move on. So, what prompted me to start is that I see that existing markets there are gaps, and these gaps will always cause pain, you know, and if this pain is upon a friend that you know, then you feel that you can't walk away and you want to do something about it.
So you started it when you found out that it was a problem from where you were working at. Now, if you did not work, would you still be doing what you're doing today? Because you would never had experience finding out about
I don't think so, because the reason why, I think my motivation of starting organizations is out of wanting to help a friend. So it's based on relationships. So you talk to someone and then you listen to their story and then you feel like they're kind of like stuck, you know, and there seems to be certain injustice. So if you, I think we can do something about it. Let's create a different platform and let's change things up.
So, and Justin, what do you think? Are the young people starting young at a more disadvantageous position because we have very little working experience?
Well, I think it goes both ways. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship in general, like the sooner you start, you really have a lot more advantages than say like when you have a job, when you have a family, you have kids and stuff to feed.
You're talking about some of these people here.
It's hard, and yeah, it's really tough to like come home, tell your wife, and say, yeah, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to work on this crazy idea I have. And so when you're young and you don't have these like really tangible obligations in that sense, you have a lot of freedom of time, which for entrepreneurs that's huge. And so it really doesn't matter what age you are. If you identify a problem, you can go, and no matter what age you are, no matter where you are in the world, with the internet and so many of the other tools available today, you can start a business around the solution to this problem. So being young has its advantages, but also being older, you may have more capital advantages, you may have more network advantages with people you know, friends that can help put you in contact with other people. So it really, my philosophy behind this is, it doesn't really matter how old you are, the biggest thing is to just start now if you want to.
Okay, thank you. So prior to this, we had a little discussion before also, like how is it that in Singapore, one of the things that we see over here is becoming really quite sexy to start our own business. And you know, with so many people starting their own businesses, you wonder if every single one of us is doing it for the right reasons. Now, can you guys give some comments about that? Anyone has any thoughts on this?
Well, I do some coaching for startup as well in my day job, and one of the biggest concern that I have today is when I speak to some startup and I ask them what is your real motivation, and a few of them, quite a number of them, they told me that it's to quickly start a brand so that they can be bought up by another company. And that to me is very disturbing. That shows a lack of emphasis on building a good product and a good service, and I think that is not very healthy for the economy. We need people to go out there and be absolutely serious about what they do, not just to start a brand so that another company can buy over them, like Instagram or whatever example that you have today. Those are rare, and you cannot aspire to be one of those companies. And you really have, if you are an entrepreneur, you got to be sure what you want to do and stick to that. And I've seen too many people who, after a year or two of building a brand, and they realize that there's lack of interest of a acquisition, they completely give up.
So why do you guys think that this is a problem that we see here? How is it that we've come to this stage that many of us are kind of thinking of, like the majority of the students that you had, thinking of starting a business just to exit? Why do you think this is happening? Justin, maybe from your point of view.
So from my point of view, I would say if your motivation is to get acquired or like just to make a lot of money or to live this like awesome lifestyle, like that's really poor like motivation, because times get really hard. I mean, it takes years to build a huge business that could even get acquired. And it's like, if you don't have a passion behind what you're doing, you're gonna very quickly fail at that and quit and go work on something else, most likely a day job. And so like, if you don't have a serious drive that's most likely solving your own problem that you encounter on a daily basis, then you're not gonna get far. And so why it's a problem is that it's not sustainable if you're planning to build something that's really attractive or for like living the high life.
So, what about you, Lex? What are your thoughts? You come from a place where
I have never seen doing a startup as sexy. And if somebody feels that way, that's wrong, because you have not talked to a startup person who's gone through the process of creating a company and exiting successfully or not. If you've talked to anybody who has done this for a few years, you'll know that it's not an easy process. There's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make. And so we should not just look at celebrities like Mark Zuckerberg and read what they have to say. I mean, it's a lot of marketing going on. But if you look at a startup guy in his or her eyes who has gone through the process, you will see the sacrifices and the pain that they have gone through. So I've never seen it as sexy. It's something that you do because you feel strongly about something. Right? It might be, and it's true for anything in life. It need not be about startups, but you need to have something that you feel strongly about, and that's why you do something in life. And doing a startup is one way of doing something you feel strongly about. It is never about being sexy. And I'm honestly, I mean, I've been in, iTwin is 2 years old. I've talked to many of the startup guys. Unless you become Mark Zuckerberg, nobody cares about you. Right? It's not sexy. Right, you will never become a celebrity even if you're, a big success in the startup. So you'll have to be very clear that you're going to do it for yourself. If you're looking for something celebrity, I think you just should join Channel 5 or some movie production.
Kenny?
I think a lot of times, like starting a company is like having a child. So you don't have a child so that one day you can sell it away. If you have that motivation from day one, the way you groom that child will be very different, right? Most likely, you want to feed it, look fat and all that, So, but of course, at the same time, an exit strategy is important. You don't want your child to be staying with you for the rest of your life. That you have to nanny it and all that. So you want to groom it. You want one day for this organization to become independent, so that you can move on to something else. I think it's a matter of like putting the cart before the horse. Let's say if you start and then you think, I want to sell it. That is not going to help you to generate a lot of ideas to help you to build that organization that people will want to acquire. So I think it's a form of strategic thinking that you have to get it right. That at the beginning, when you have an organization, it's supposed to make a difference in society, and that's how it will command certain market value and become profitable and grow. Yeah.
So, Keith, what do you tell your students when they give you answers like that? We all know that we need to start it for the right reasons. Now, do those students who tell you that, I'm going to start a company and maybe try to sell it off in the future, what's your response to them?
Well, I'll tell them, quit now. Don't waste your time. If that's like what Kenny mentioned just now, if that's your objective to sell it off, to sell your baby away, then you are in the wrong line, right? And there's so many other things that you can do that can achieve that kind of financial success if you want to. Being an entrepreneur is not just about financial success. It's a kind of a mindset. It's a kind of a behavior. Exploring new things, trying new stuff, and discovering what is the boundary, whether it's personally or for the society or for the organization. So if you don't have the kind of mindset, stop now, don't waste your time.
So the thing is, 1 year ago, I was just sitting in the audience also, and here I was thinking that, you know, everyone is telling me that, oh, starting a business is really hard, the journal is really tough, you know, but we don't get much opportunity to hear from people who have been there, done it, to hear about some of the downsides about the things they've been doing. What are some of the hurdles that you have crossed? Now, to make it very real and put in perspective for these people here who are starting their own businesses, who are already in their businesses, can you guys share some of the things that you've been through that was really tough to put things into perspective and how you've overcome them? Maybe Laps, what about you first?
You know, the biggest challenge I have faced is recruiting good people, people whom you can trust, and you know, doing business is all about people, your customers or your people in your own company. And this is really difficult because if you're you know, early into this game, I mean, startup people tend to be delusional. I'm no exception, right? So you think you're going to, the whole world is going to discover you tomorrow and you're going to be very successful day after tomorrow. It doesn't happen. And then, you know, you have a phase where you get disillusioned and your team will also get disillusioned. So how do you motivate the team to believe in what you are doing, right? That is the biggest difficulty. And I was very fortunate because for any company, the second person is the most important person. You know, the first person is yourself. You are really motivated, but trying to convince the second guy to join you, right, is the most difficult part. So I always feel that if you're doing a company, try to get a co-founder or try to get someone who will complement your skill sets. Right, and I was very lucky that I found someone early on. But even then, you know, to create a company, to expand, right, you need a team, right? And it's not very easy to scale. You know, you might convince the first few people, the 5 to the 10th employee, give them stock options and get them really excited. But once you are hitting the 20th member, right, he or she is not going to get a lot of stock options. You're going to give them you know, him or her a regular pay, and it's not going to be a bank salary, right? How do you motivate these people? How do you keep them in your team when things go bad, right? That is the biggest challenge. I mean, I'm still facing it every day, and and all these things really boil down to how convinced you are about your own product. Right, so that's my biggest challenge is about people, because if you get the right people and you can and you have a really good team that can work together, I feel that even if you are doing something really simple, you'll be very successful.
Can we hear also a real story that maybe Kenny, you faced when you were starting Old School? A real problem that it could be a funding issue, it could be.
I think when we first started Old School, so we have to raise some funding. So during that time, there was Comcare Social Enterprise Fund that's made available by the ministry. So I remember that during an initial meeting with a previous officer that managed the fund, so we share with them our concept, and the officer was saying, no, this is a bad idea. You're not going to get any money. All right, you're not going to get it, all right, and then it's like one whole bucket of cold water just, all right, so the question is then, what do you do after that? Do you give up, or do you go on and take another approach? You know, so we actually didn't give up, so I went to the new officer, and I spent about 6 months trying to let them understand the idea and all that. Then, of course, ultimately we get the funding. But after that, it's also because you have an idea, you made certain assumptions. Then when you carry it out, some of the assumptions will be challenged. So you have to be able to adapt to the situation to make sure that we delivered the promises that we made to the stakeholders at the beginning. Yeah.
Now this is really interesting. Now we have 2 serial entrepreneurs over here who, from what I know, bootstrap most of the time, all the way, if not all. And one of the conversation I had outside early on today was that, you know, someone was just telling me that, okay, they think that funding is the most important thing in any startup. Now, let's hear it from your point of view. First, Justin, you started many companies before, so what's your take on getting funding? Do we really need it? Is it the crux of the entire startup?
No, I definitely don't think fundraising should be your goal. If your goal is to raise funding, like you're in the wrong business. For me, my philosophy regarding this is find your first customer first. Find someone who has the problem you're trying to solve and get them right off the bat before you even incorporate, before you make your business cards, before anything else. Find your first customer and walk them through the problem and the solution and figure out what kind of products, what kind of services you can give to them, you can provide, and then that's when you have a business. It's not when you get fundraising, and it's not when you get VC money to come in. It really is when you have that first customer that you're solving a problem for, and from there, your focus should be to find more customers. That should be your fundraising. And so that's my philosophy when it comes to bootstrapping for businesses, is go seek out that first customer. If you can't find it, the problem may not exist.
Yep, that's very true. What about you, Keith?
Well, I agree with Justin. Like funding, getting funds shouldn't be your first priority. Just going back a little bit on what I think is the biggest struggle. By the way, my latest startup is Random Doodle. You see this mascot here is actually designed by me.
Oh, nice.
Thanks. And as part of the recent struggle that I have with this new startup is really about sustaining the passion. I like to draw, as I've always been a doodler. I like to doodle when I'm in a meeting and when I'm at school, so I always do that. But to translate that into a business, you lose that interest very, very quickly, because now you have to do it because your client is asking you to do it. You have to do it because there's an obligation, and you lose that passion. How do you sustain that passion? I think that is that's very key. So not just about looking for funding. I think that's important at a later stage. But I agree with Justin. Try to do a prototype, to do a mock-up as quickly as possible, put it out there, and discover whether this is indeed what the market wants. If the market doesn't want this, move on to something else, right? Don't be fixated on that one idea. Look for funding, hope that the product is 100% ready, and then you go to market. By then, it's too late to discover that your product is not necessary or not required.
So how do you overcome that problem you said earlier? You love doing what you were doing, but after a while, what you love doing kind of become a work for you and less interesting, less fun. What happened to you after that? How do you overcome that?
So right now I'm making a very, very hard decision. I'm telling myself to drop projects or stop working with people that I do not like. So it's
fire your customers, right?
Yeah, I look at my customer. I look at them. If they are telling me, "Oh, I want you to draw this," and when I try to explain to them certain color scheme doesn't work, certain style doesn't work, and they still insist on that, then I need to make a decision that is this the right client for me, right? If I continue down that path of trying to please a client, then I'm not really believing the same spirit that I started the company, which is to follow the passion, to draw something that I like.
So is this a passion or problem first question? Justin's point of view is that, okay, let's get a customer. If I can convince one customer to pay me first, if there's something I can achieve, we should start from there. Now, passion is really important as well, because that's the only way you can sustain the kind of hurdles and difficult journey you need to go through in starting your own business. So what are your thoughts on this? Is it a passion or problem first question?
Before I go in, I want to talk about the funding. iTwin has raised 2 rounds of funding, so we have raised a few $1 million of funding because we are a hardware company. And I have 2 thoughts on this. Firstly, when you raise money, it's not a time for celebration, because it means that the people who gave you money did not give it to you because they like you, they want to make more money out of it. So in effect, you are in debt, right? It's not time to be celebrating, you're in debt. The second thing is, once you raise money, right, I tell you guys, I have a board, you lose control. I mean, for founders, you are driven by passion, and once you raise money, you lose a fair amount of control. And people think that, don't realize that, when you have a board, everybody has their own ideas about where the company goes. You have investors who have a particular time frame where they want to exit. So I truly believe you don't have to raise money. That's the best a path forward. I mean, iTwin is a hardware company. We had to raise money, but always delay it until, as Justin and Keith pointed out, find the right customer. And so, as long as you're able to solve somebody's problem, that's good. To answer your question about passion and problem, I think both are necessary. The problem is effectively you need to make somebody happy, so that somebody is happy and they pay you, right? And this is effectively fueled by your passion, but you also need to have the discipline because you have to make money. I mean, this is a place where you have to solve somebody's problems, right? So both of them are very important, and the reason why you need passion is because startups are difficult. If it's easy, you don't need passion. You just like a regular job, right? Right? If people call it passion because it's a difficult thing. It's like climbing a mountain, right? If it's easy, you don't say like you need passion. You need to be motivated. You just go and do it, right? Right? So the passion is basically a pat on your back, basically telling you this is a very difficult problem and you need to be really passionate about it, right? But I personally feel you have to solve somebody's problem so that they'll pay you for it.
Okay. Thank you.
You need both. I think you have to be passionate about solving problems. Is that a good answer for you?
Well, it's for everyone over here.
Because at the end of the day, there's nobody is going to watch your back. If you work 8 to 5, you can actually knock off.
Earlier than an
but
entrepreneur,
the entrepreneur will never knock off.
Yes.
Because wherever they go, and then they see things, and then start to spin, and then because they're passionate, and then they're in Chinese we have qiu jiu,
Qiu jiu.
hands itchy. Then you feel that, hey, I think we can fix this as well, and then we look for them in a sense. So it's like a love-hate thing. Then once you jump into it, then you realize that why did I jump into this thing? But sooner or later, you're gonna figure out we are problem solvers. We solve puzzles. That drives us. It's kind of like an addiction. We don't do things, we get bored, right? We cannot stay. I'm not sure if that's the same, but it's like
So, and Justin, yourself, you started multiple businesses before, right? So, do you have that many passions? Or did you meet that many problems? You shared with me some very interesting stories of how you started very traditional businesses but made money also. Maybe you can share with the audience.
Yeah, I think that I'm really blessed to say that my passion is helping people. And so regardless of what industry it's in, like if I'm helping to solve someone's problem, that's awesome. That's the position and that's the type of business that I want to be in. And so for me, like my background is really strongly tech focused, but I have, the great thing about tech also is that it can be applied to any business. It can be applied to finance, it can be applied to healthcare. And it's really just a tool to use to help create more efficiencies and solve people's problems, whether that's like saving time or reducing cost. And so for me, like my passion is people, and solving people's problems can be applied to anyone. So
that's great. So one of the questions that we asked backstage also was also, can you not be a lawyer and start a lawyer firm? Now I know that you weren't a dancer before you started old school, right?
Yeah.
Was it how difficult was it? How do you manage to convince these dancers to come on board and say, hey, I'm going to start a dance school. I can't dance, but I'm going to manage you. How do you do that?
I think it's important to have some background knowledge of the subject as well, so you understand what is the value and who can do what. I think basically entrepreneurs are, puzzle makers. We put the right pieces together in the right order. We move pieces. So we should not be limited to our own knowledge base or capability. We should hire our gaps, so that we can move on.
I think it's very admirable that you went to industry that you were not so familiar with. So that's really impressive. Now, I've asked all the questions that I want to ask, and I'm sure some of you here would want to ask our panelists some question. So we have about 5 minutes over here. Can we get maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience? Is there anyone who wants to ask anything? Oh, come on. Everyone over here wants to be an entrepreneur, right? So while there is a chance, please catch them over here. We have people in the tech business, in the dance business, in the digital media business, and people, all walks of life. Oh, hi.
Hi. I had been an entrepreneur in the past, but one of the feedback I keep getting from my mentors is that I keep losing focus. I mean, when a new idea comes up, you brighten up and move to that idea, right? So, how do you, any advice, suggestions? You always catch hold of something away from you along the way. So, all I can do is recognize that and just keep moving.
Okay. So, any ideas on that?
So that's a problem I have quite often.
You're not alone.
You're definitely not alone. I'm really ADD when it comes to like what I'm working on as well, and the different problems that I want to help solve. And so for me, I have to just employ quite a bit of self-discipline and put a timetable on, or like set milestones right from the beginning of what I want to hit. And if I'm not hitting these milestones or just nowhere close, then I'll typically move on and pursue some other idea. So define what is success for you when it comes to that idea or that business venture. And if after 6, 9, 12 months you're not even close to that and you're just really losing passion for it, I mean, there's so many other opportunities, like go tackle another one.
So, well,
if I may, I think one of the hardest skill to learn as an entrepreneur is to say no. Say no to other ideas and really focus on the stuff that you want to do. My former boss at Microsoft, which is a very fantastic mentor of mine, taught me to really stay true to what you want to do. And he always advised me, write down the thing that you want to do and paste it in front of you. Always focus on that, and don't be distracted by all the hundreds of things that's coming to you. Say no to them, right? Gotta learn to say no to stuff and say no to people. Once you learn that skill, I think you're on the way to be a good entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. I hope that helps you also. Okay, so I think that's all the time. There's a question there? No. Okay, so that's all the time that we have for today. We have another, sorry? That time's up, right? Okay. So that's all the time we have for today. If you want to look for them to speak afterwards, you can feel free to find them outside, maybe. So there's another panel later at 4 o'clock also. Please be here. You'll be hearing from mentors and how to optimize the mentors that you have, or your potential mentors in the future. So thank you guys. Thank you very much. Give me a round of applause for them.